When it comes to underappreciated superhero video games, one of the titles that usually pops into my mind before a lot of others is 2013's Deadpool, developed by High Moon Studios, who you may recognize as the developer behind the Transformers games, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, which I do hope to review someday, as soon as I can get my hands on copies of them, because from what I've heard and what I've seen, they kick some serious ass, at least compared to a lot of Transformers games from the past, that is. Anyways, we're not here to talk about the Transformers, at least not right now. Deadpool is the name of the game, quite literally, and yes, I find Deadpool to be underrated, a hidden gem, so to speak, within the superhero video game genre. It has a few shortcomings, of course. By no means am I calling it a masterpiece, but I do think it's a pretty fun and satisfying game by and large. A lot of the reviews for Deadpool at the time of its release, and even now, have been a bit too harsh in my opinion. Again, the game is not perfect. It has a few weaknesses which I will be addressing, but I do think it's a lot better than many people give it credit for, and it does a lot right in terms of the Deadpool character.
That with our eyes. Oh. Hey, look over here.
Deadpool is primarily a hack-and-slash action game with third-person shooter and platforming elements sprinkled into it. As the Merc with a mouth himself, Deadpool, you get to make use of his various weapons, the primary ones being his dual katanas, sais, and giant hammers, probably my favorite, just because they are so oversized and savage-looking. But you also have access to several side weapons as well, like grenades, tear gas, mines, and even bear traps of all things, to either stun enemies temporarily or take out large groups of them all at once. Counterattacks can be performed by pressing the circle button when prompted, and special moves that do massive amounts of damage can be activated when your momentum meter is filled. Some of the animations with these moves, and even many of the stealth attacks you can pull off in certain areas as well, are pretty hilarious. They fit Deadpool to a T. The gun combat in this game is nothing to sneeze at though. You can use a variety of firearms, like handguns, shotguns, and Uzis, even throwing in a few rounds into many of your combos, which is cool. But the auto-aim this game gives you is extremely generous. All you have to do is keep mashing the L2 button, and you're guaranteed to hit every single bullet you fire. It makes this game far too easy, especially when you fully upgrade all of your stronger weapons. Deadpool's iconic healing factor is a big element of this game's combat as well, because whenever you are taking too much punishment, all you have to do is fall back for a little bit, and your health meter will fully replenish. On harder difficulties, you'll find yourself having to do this more and more frequently, and the integrity of Deadpool's costume will reflect how much health he has remaining, which is pretty neat. One of the biggest complaints towards Deadpool is that its gameplay gets very repetitive. Repetitiveness has never really been an issue with me in games, because I've played a lot of repetitive ones in the past, and many of them can still be a lot of fun to sit through. The bigger question is not whether or not a game is repetitive, but more importantly, if this repetitiveness causes the game you are playing to become boring. And with Deadpool, I wouldn't say that's the case. The combat found in this game is repetitive. It gets very button-mashy, but I think there are enough weapons, combat moves, and flashy animations to keep things relatively interesting while you are playing. There's never really a dull moment in this game, at least in terms of the gameplay itself. It tries its best to inject some variety into what you are doing, whether that's through the combat, the platforming, or the odd time you have to solve some sort of puzzle to progress. A lot of it is really basic, but I find it switches things up frequently enough that it doesn't become too stale, at least to me. One of Deadpool's saving graces is its humor. It's the glue, the connective tissue that holds a lot of its weaker aspects together. If this game had not been as funny as it was, then I would view it in a far more unfavorable light than I do. Deadpool can be downright hilarious at times. Some of the jokes make me laugh out loud, even after multiple playthroughs.
You know what else is good to have? Skills.
How much C4 is this gonna take?
It's no more than 20 ounces.
What? Oh, I hate the metric system. How much in American?
Let's see. Carry the 7...
Dude, fuck math. Just use all of it.
There are several wacky scenarios and gimmicks featured in each of the levels. Many of them are visually unique, and some even interact with the player on a whole different level than you're used to, breaking the fourth wall, as is tradition with Deadpool. If you're a fan of this character and his style of humor, where nothing is off limits, then you'll probably have a blast with a lot of the jokes featured in this game.
No, I can't stay. I'm fighting my own battles in the future, all of which hinge on what you do here and now.
Now, the problem with having a game as funny as Deadpool, though, it's quite apparent that most of the effort was put into writing the jokes, incorporating the player into them, and a lot less was put into the actual story itself. Deadpool the game was written by comic book writer Daniel Way, who has written for Deadpool in the past, as well as Wolverine Origins. He knows how to write some pretty decent comic books, but for whatever reason, probably due to time constraints or possibly a lack of confidence writing for a completely different medium like video games, his story for Deadpool is pretty shallow, almost non-existent. There's nothing to really talk about. Deadpool centers around, well, Deadpool, pitching an idea for the most awesome video game ever, starring himself, which is initially rejected by High Moon Studios, until he sets off a bunch of explosives at their headquarters, forcing them to make his game. They send a copy of the script to his apartment. Deadpool makes some changes to it, accepts a contract to go assassinate a corrupt media mogul named Chance White, and White is taken right out from under Deadpool's nose by Mr. Sinister and his team of cloned mutant warriors, called the Marauders. The rest of the game just focuses on Deadpool getting revenge against Mr. Sinister basically, battling each member of the Marauders, and teaming up with a few X-Men characters, such as Psylocke, Domino, Wolverine, and the time-traveling Cable to stop the mad scientist villain from taking over the world with an army of clones. That's about it. While this game does feature a few fun cameos from several of the X-Men, most of them aren't in it for very long, which is kind of disappointing. The Marauders, Blockbuster, Arclight, and Vertigo, who act as the primary villains of this game, making up the vast majority of the boss battles, are pretty lame in all honesty. They are D-listers, as Deadpool puts it, and they make the whole narrative of this game feel very underwhelming in terms of scale. Vertigo's powers and how they are shown disorienting Deadpool is pretty funny, and how the developers make you as the player feel the effects of them without it being too nausea and headache-inducing is kind of impressive, because they walk that fine line. But again, the Marauders are not all that interesting, and weak choices as antagonists for this game. Even the main villain, Mr. Sinister, is depicted in a very forgettable way. The only positive I can really say about him is that you get to kill several of his clones throughout the game, which is kind of hilarious. Gives you an excuse to kill him in a multitude of different ways.
Sinister is standing right on the... Shut up, stupid! Don't spoil it. Go ahead, player. Whenever you're ready. Just push the button. Oh, did you want to go make a sandwich while the master villain stands behind me ready to strike? Oh, I'll go right ahead. We'll wait. I know it can be hard to execute a long string of button presses like this one, but you can do it. We believe in you. Still here, FYI. Come on, player, come on! We've climbed the mountaintop together. Don't give up now! This totally reminds me of that one time with those other dudes when we totally did that one thing and everyone busted up laughing because what's-his-name fell over to that other guy, and we were all like, push the damn button!
Hands on the controller, shaking fingers poised over the button, each tip glistening with sweat and quivering in anticipation of the moment in which you
Push the button!
The main issue I have with Deadpool's story, what makes it feel so uneventful and shallow, is the fact that it lacks any real emotional depth to it. There isn't some underlying theme to everything going on, some sort of lesson presented to the audience by the time the credits roll. Nothing in this game is taken seriously, not even in the slightest. Even Deadpool as a character feels very hollow and simplistic because he doesn't change from the moment this game starts to the moment it ends. There is no character arc to speak of whatsoever. And while I did mention that the humor in this game is its strong point, a perfect representation of the type of stuff Deadpool does in the comics, everything else surrounding this character is not, because it just doesn't exist. Contrary to what many people may believe, Deadpool and his stories do have a serious side to them. They can be very layered when they want to be, but in this game, Daniel Way and the developers have simplified everything. Deadpool, as a character, only possesses his superficial qualities, and not much else. They basically dialed his humor up to 11 in a way to, most likely, distract you from a lot of this game's weaknesses. But even if that's the case, I do still enjoy playing Deadpool the game. Sure, it's got a lot of issues pertaining to its weak-ass story and a lack of emotional weight to everything, but the gameplay, while repetitive, can be a lot of fun. And, like I've mentioned countless times in this video, the humor on display here, in all of its various forms, is very entertaining. Some of the jokes still get me, no matter how many times I play it.
Destruction comes in groups of 3. Fill these statues. Set us free. What a beautiful poem. So true. What the fuck does it mean?
This has been NerdGasm. I want to thank you all for watching my review of 2013's Deadpool game. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want to thank all of my patrons who voted for this review topic over on my Patreon page. Moving forward, I have made the difficult decision to cease all Patreon polls that determine video topics on this channel. As many of you may or may not know by now, I have grown increasingly more busy in my day-to-day life, and making YouTube videos has proved challenging due to a lack of time, energy, and resources. I will be going on a short hiatus of sorts, but when I return, sometime in September or October, I don't really know yet, I will need complete freedom and flexibility to work on whatever videos I can, when I can. So I hope all of you, especially my patrons, understand where I'm coming from with all of that. Someday in the future, Patreon polls will return. I just don't know when. In the meantime, though, I do plan on doing monthly film commentaries on Patreon to fill the void. Anyways, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you were entertained and informed in some way. If you want to see more videos like this one and want to stay updated with all the new content I release, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and bell icon to receive all notifications for my channel. Take care and stay nerdy. I'll see you all in the next one.
Don't worry, Rogue. We'll save you. Mr. Snookums? What are you...